Greetings, animal lovers, and welcome to the channel. Before starting with the video, please note that no copyright infringement is intended and that I do not own or claim to own any rights to the material and photos you will see. The goal of this video is to analyze the documented records of Siberian tigers hunting and killing adult male brown bears. Hunters who are constantly in the taiga say that if the largest animals, a tiger and a brown bear, meet, they, feeling each other's strength, will certainly try to disperse peacefully, but if the conflict cannot be resolved in this way, then it is believed that the tiger will most likely win if he is not injured, tired, and has not lost strength from hunger. According to Sergei Abramov, a prominent Russian zoologist and director general of the Amur Tiger Center, the outcome of these brawls comes down to sheer size and weight. A massive brown bear has more chances against a tigress or a smaller, younger tiger. However, Abramov notes that a large adult male tiger is likely to win against any bear.
В Моравском крае медведь в 500-600 килограмм, бурый самец, не считается редкостью. То есть, как у нас говорят, размером с УАЗик. Ну и действительно, когда в лесу встречаешь, то вот кажется, что квадратный Халевич, а на самом деле, если немножко отодвинуться, это огромный медведь. Так вот, бурый медведь, в отличие от гималайского медведя, он больше хищник. Он не брезгует копытными животными. Ему, конечно, сложнее на них охотиться, да, он не особо приспособлен, но к своему рациону, в который включена рыба, соответственно, ягоды, также желуди, кедровые орехи, он включает копытных животных, особенно молодых, охотится на солонцах, знает места, где они концентрируются, копытные животные, и, в принципе, обладает неким охотничьим поведением. Конечно, не таким совершенным, как у русского тигра, но все же, он тоже немножко хищник. Но все же, охотничье поведение, то, что тигр каждый год, да, там, раз в 10 дней добывает, убивает крупное животное, вот эта тренировка, она берет свое. Поэтому самец тигра, взрослый самец тигра всегда убьет любого медведя. А вот самка, да, или молодой тигр может проиграть крупному самцу медведя и стать жертвой. То есть, в принципе, если говорить спортивными терминами, да, это все равно, что поединок каратиста с боксером. Да, если каратист либо борец пропустит удар боксера, то он на этом, в принципе, и закончится. А если боксер, в данном случае медведь, промахнулся, то тут уже, скажем так, и борец, и человек, обладающий ударной техникой, да, может его победить.
Let's look at the official Instagram post from the Amur Tiger Center. An adult brown bear is far more massive than the Siberian tiger. It can reach 400, 500, sometimes 600 kilograms in weight. Tigers do not grow to this size, but they compensate for their lower weight with more developed hunting skills. In other words, a tiger knows better how and where to bite to kill its prey. Both predators seem to realize each other's strength and prefer to keep armed neutrality. Conflicts happen when a hungry bear tries to take the food away from the tiger, or if one of the opponents realizes his superiority. And what if a conflict is inevitable? Specialists have collected some data. About half of the fights end up with deadly wounds for both predators. Other fights end equally with the tiger's or bear's victory. The result of a brawl depends on the size and weight of animals. A large bear has more chances against a tigress or a small tiger. A large adult male tiger is likely to win against any bear. So, without further ado, let's dive into the actual official accounts of tigers taking down large male brown bears. Our first account comes from an important text in wildlife biology, the book The Amur Tiger, written by Yuri Dunishenko and Dr. Alexander Kulikov. To give you an idea of how credible this data is, Dr. Kulikov is a prominent Russian zoologist and founder of the Khabarovsk Wildlife Foundation. Dunishenko is widely considered a walking encyclopedia of the Russian Far East, having spent over half a century tracking and protecting Siberian tigers. Even Sergei Abramov, the head of the Amur Tiger Center, famously remarked that Dunishenko's insights are unmatched. On page 23 of their book, they document a striking encounter between a tiger and large brown bear. Here is exactly what happened. Let's read. We heard one story about how a large brown bear, having taken on a wild boar and covered it with scat and brushwood to make some stewed boar bear style, suddenly got paid a visit by a hungry tiger. Oh, how much blood got shed. The owner of the kill died from terrible wounds, and the disfigured tiger, moving off like a drunk, didn't even bother with the fresh spoils of the kill. While the authors don't explicitly use the word male, a wildlife biologist analyzing this text would immediately infer that this was a mature adult male bear. Here is why. First of all, brown bears are highly sexually dimorphic, meaning males grow significantly larger than females. In Russian field literature, when seasoned biologists specify a large brown bear, it is standard shorthand for an adult male. On top of that, the text notes the bear had just successfully taken on a wild boar. Ussuri wild boars are massive, aggressive, and armed with razor-sharp tusks. Female and subadult brown bears generally avoid them due to the extreme risk of injury. Overpowering a prime wild boar requires the sheer skeletal strength and muscle mass exclusive to a dominant adult male. Critics might point out that the authors introduced this as a story they heard. However, in the rugged, vast expanse of the Siberian taiga, the line between a local account and scientific data is highly collaborative. Prominent biologists like Dunishenko and Kulikov do not waste ink on folklore. Field scientists in the Russian Far East have historically relied on indigenous trackers, trappers, and local hunters as expert field observers. A scientist will not publish a local tale if it contradicts known animal behavior. The authors included this account because every bloody detail aligns perfectly with verified empirical data on tiger-bear conflicts. By writing, "We heard one story," the authors are maintaining strict scientific integrity. They are signaling that while they didn't witness the aftermath themselves, their decades of experience in the taiga confirm that this is exactly how these two predators clash. It isn't a statistical data point, but it is absolute proof that two world-class biologists vouch for the reality of the event. Let's move to the second account. This account happened in July 1943 and was reported by the great biologist/zoologist Vratislav Mazak. In his book, Der Tiger, he mentioned a case where a tiger had killed and eaten a very large male brown bear along the Sungari River in Manchuria. The book Der Tiger is quite an important book. It served as the comprehensive standard text on tiger biology, anatomy, and craniometrics. Mazak used this work to lay out the definitive morphological differences among the different tiger populations, establishing a classification system that researchers used for over 20 years. Just like Dunishenko and Kulikov, Mazak relies on a primary field observer, in this case W.J. Jankowski, a famous hunter and naturalist who operated in the region. This is the English translation of the German writing/paragraph. To complete the information on this giant tiger, I should perhaps mention that Jankowski wrote that the tiger had killed and eaten a very large male brown bear a few days before he was shot, of which only a leg and the head, found by Jankowski, remained. This is the tiger that killed and ate the huge male brown bear, shot by the hunter Jankowski. Look how big is the size of the head. This tiger was estimated to be around 300 kilograms, maybe even more. By the way, Jankowski wasn't a casual tourist or a sports hunter looking to exaggerate a trophy story. He was a highly respected naturalist, wildlife collector, and a longtime resident of the region. Biologists of this era explicitly relied on his field notes because his tracking data, physical descriptions, and observations were consistently accurate and objective. What makes this account incredibly compelling is that it doesn't rely on hearsay. It is backed by concrete physical remains. Jankowski explicitly recorded finding the head and a leg, paw, of a very large male brown bear right at the site. When a tiger consumes a massive prey item like a bear, it eats the muscle-dense, fatty areas first, the rump, torso, and limbs. The skull is incredibly thick bone, and the paws are dense, fibrous, and full of heavy claws. They are the hardest parts to consume and offer the lowest nutritional reward. Finding exactly a head and a paw left over next to a tiger's kill site perfectly matches the exact forensic profile of how a tiger processes a bear carcass. By the way, Mazak was one of the 20th century's absolute leading authorities on tiger morphology, anatomy, and taxonomy. He was notoriously rigorous and spent much of his career actively debunking overblown hunting myths and exaggerated weight claims. The fact that Mazak chose to include this specific account in his definitive monograph, Der Tiger, means it passed his strict professional filter for biological plausibility. He deemed it authentic field evidence. Given the massive size of this specific tiger and the fresh nature of the remains, a direct predatory kill isn't just a campfire story. It is a scientifically verified historical event. The next case is found in the same book, Der Tiger, by Mazak. This account was reported by the late K.G. Abramov, 1961, who stated that in the southern part of the Sysoev mountain range, a large old brown bear male known as a Shatun was killed and partially eaten by an old male tiger in the winter of 1958/59. So, first of all, Konstantin Abramov was not just any field scientist. He was a foundational pillar of Russian wildlife conservation. He was the very first director of the Sykote-Alin Reserve and the co-founder of the Lazovsky Reserve. If Abramov documented a predatory event, it carries immense scientific weight. The text translated from German uses the phrase large old brown bear. However, looking closely at the original Russian terminology favored by Abramov, there is a major linguistic nuance to point out. The German translation likely substituted old for the Russian word matori, matiori. While often loosely translated as old, in Russian hunting and biological context, matiori does not mean decrepit or frail. It means experienced, fully grown, prime, and exceptionally strong. This wasn't a weak, dying bear. This was a peak-condition, dominant, mature male at the absolute top of his game. Even if we take the translation literally and assume both animals were biologically old, the physiological advantage still heavily favored the bear. This makes the tiger's victory even more staggering. Tigers are obligate carnivores that rely entirely on explosive speed, agility, and tooth integrity. As a tiger gets genuinely old, it loses muscle mass, its teeth wear down, and its hunting efficiency drastically drops. An old tiger is a weaker tiger. Brown bears, on the other hand, are omnivorous tanks. They do not experience the same rapid physical decline in size or skeletal strength with age. An older male brown bear is often at his absolute heaviest, possessing massive bone density and decades of combat experience. Therefore, even if both were past their prime, the old tiger overcame a massive physical disadvantage to kill an old male bear. The text notes that the bear was a Shatun. For those unfamiliar with the term, a Shatun is a bear that failed to accumulate enough fat reserves to hibernate through the harsh Siberian winter. Shatun bears are notoriously desperate, hyper-aggressive, and highly alert because they are starving. In winter encounters involving a Shatun, it is almost always the bear that actively seeks out and initiates the fight. Furthermore, it is typically the largest, most dominant males that become Shatuns because their massive bodies require far more calories to sustain than smaller females or subadults. So, to sum up, a legendary Soviet wildlife director recorded a starving, highly aggressive, prime adult male brown bear clashing in the dead of winter with an old male tiger. The tiger didn't just survive the encounter, it won the fight and ate the bear. The fourth account is again from zoologist Konstantin Georgievich Abramov. In this case, a tigress managed to defeat a huge male Shatun brown bear out of revenge for killing her cub. By the way, the tiger cub put a great fight. Let's read. The wandering bear had not eaten anything for several days. He was overcome by excruciating hunger. He went around in search of food, but the boars left, and the piglets went with them. And the bear was especially fond of the tender meat of wild boars. Suddenly the bear raised his head and sucked in the air. There was no doubt, but he still could not believe it. So he stood up on his hind legs, looked around, sat down and pulled his nose again, and now, without stopping, he went to the thicket. The tiger cub had just eaten and, satisfied, nonchalantly stretched out near the remains of the boar. The appearance of the bear was unexpected and therefore especially terrifying, but the tiger cub did not retreat. He decided to defend himself, and the beast grew. The tiger struck well-aimed blows with its paws, tufts of fur flew, the ground was covered with drops of blood. Soon blood flowed from the bear's flank, ripped open by tiger fangs, but the bear, though hungry, was huge, especially its 10-centimeter claws. In the end, he crushed the tiger and killed it, and then dined on it and the boar. The next day, I finished the remainder, bones and pieces of skin covered with branches. The tigress rolled on the ground in a rage near the remains dear to her, then took the trail of the wandering rod, caught up with it, rushed at the bear with a huge jump and bit its neck. Let's start with the most important piece of physical evidence in this text, the bear's 10-centimeter claws. This is a hard, empirical measurement. Abramov likely measured the claw marks left in the bark of a nearby tree or deeply embedded in the mud/snow during the struggle. This measurement anchors the claim that the bear was a massive adult male. In brown bear biology, claw length isn't random. It scales directly with the animal's overall skeletal structure and body mass. Front claws measuring 10 centimeters, nearly 4 inches, are a physical impossibility for a female or a subadult Ussuri brown bear. This specific anatomical feature belongs exclusively to an exceptionally massive, fully mature adult male. The text describes a wandering bear overcome by excruciating hunger in the dead of winter. This is the definition of a Shatun, a bear that failed to hibernate and is now a perpetually starving, hyper-aggressive killing machine. Driven by a desperate need for meat, this massive bear smelled a wild boar carcass and deliberately targeted the site. It didn't care that tigers were nearby. A Shatun will actively hunt anything that moves. When it encountered the tiger cub, the cub put up a ferocious fight, ripping open the bear's flank, but was ultimately crushed by the sheer mass of the giant male. Now you may ask, how did Abramov know the tigress rolled in a rage, or how the cub fought? Well, remember who Konstantin Abramov was, a master field researcher and the director of the Sikote Alin Reserve. In the snowy taiga, a skilled tracker can read a sequence of events like a forensic crime scene. Abramov didn't need to see the fight with his own eyes because the snow left an undeniable physical record. He could see the trampled snow, tufts of fur, and drops of blood, showing exactly where the cub stood its ground. He found the exact spot where the returning tigress discovered her dead cub, leaving heavy depressions in the snow where she literally rolled in a maternal hormonal rage. He followed her tracks as she precisely trailed the heavy, slow-moving wounded bear. She didn't just track him, she hunted him with a calculated mother's fury. A tigress is significantly smaller than a prime male brown bear. In a prolonged wrestling match, the bear's superior weight and 10-centimeter claws could crush her. But the tigress possessed two ultimate tactical advantages: stealth and velocity. Reading the tracks, Abramov notes she caught up to the bear, used a huge jump to completely bypass its defenses, and securely bit its neck. By utilizing a high-velocity attack to the neck, she neutralized the bear's size advantage, delivering a precision strike to sever the spinal cord or jugular, avenging her cub and bringing down one of the largest predators the taiga had to offer.
The fifth account is an eyewitness account of a tigress that stalked and killed a large male brown bear much bigger than herself. This account is from the great Russian biologist Sergei Petrovich Kucherenko. Sergei Kucherenko had over 40 years of active field and scientific research experience dedicated to the wildlife of the Russian Far East. His active field career spanned from the mid-1960s until the 2000s, concluding prior to his passing in 2009. He earned his Candidate of Sciences, equivalent to a PhD, in biology, writing his dissertation on the predatory mammals of the Sikhote Range. He wrote approximately 100 scientific papers and numerous highly popular nature books. His extensive observations remain essential to the foundational understanding of Far Eastern ecosystem dynamics. The eyewitness account is found in his book, Meeting with the Amur Tiger, page 33. Let's read first what the author says at the beginning of the book, There is no fiction in this book. Its stories and novellas from the point of view of ecology are strictly sustained and based on factual material. So, the book is based on factual material. Let's now read the account. Of course, all my attention was riveted by the tiger. It was a female, small, with muzzled nipples. I was surprised at her courage and even at her self-confidence. The bear was much larger and more powerful. It was later that I learned the reason for her courage and determination. They were built on a strict calculation of their actions, the suddenness of the attack, dexterity, and impetuosity. The tigress, of course, saved her life for her children more than for herself, and if she decided to attack the bear, she knew that there were serious reasons for this and confidence in victory. It crept up exactly like a domestic cat, slowly, with freezes, silently moving its paws. The tigress did not take her yellow glowing eyes off her victim and definitely calculated every step she took to approach the distance of the decisive jump. At first there were 30 meters between them, but this distance quickly and imperceptibly decreased by half. Then the tigress found herself behind a large boulder, crawled another 5 meters, and slowly climbed to its gently sloping top, sprawling on it like a carpet. And petrified. Only the end of the tail, hanging to the back, wriggled impatiently, betraying excitement. The unsuspecting bear was 2 tiger jumps away, but for some reason the striped bear hesitated. And I realized that she had built her calculations on a single jump. She was either waiting for the prey to inadvertently approach her, or looking for an opportune moment to approach herself. A minute passed, another dragged on. From the tension, I forgot about the retreat, although I kept my gun in constant readiness. And here it is, the right moment. When the bear buried its head in the dug hole, the tigress switched to another boulder some 5 meters from the beetroot, who had lost all caution. She jumped on him from that boulder. She jumped with such a deafening roar that I froze completely. However, he clearly saw it in a jump, with its mouth wide open, its front paws spread, and its claws out. In that meager fraction of a second, the bear could only turn around and stand up, but he did not have time to spread his paws in order to take the enemy into his arms, as is customary in such circumstances. I think that it was on all this that the tiger jump was built. The predator, with a strong swing of its clawed paws, slashed the victim from top to bottom on its open belly, immediately dived its head between the hind legs of the enemy up to its shoulders, and with a sharp jerk threw the brown giant over itself, behind its tail. If I hadn't seen it myself, I wouldn't have believed anyone that this animal was capable of throwing twice its own weight so hard. She jumped on him from that boulder. She jumped with such a deafening roar that I froze. The bear roared and rolled, entangled himself more and more with blue intestines. From horror and pain, at first, he did not even think to find his enemy and take revenge, which is also inherent in the bear's nature from birth. But with his last breath, he found the tigress with his eyes and crawled towards her, but crawled with dying fades. She was lying on a boulder, whipping herself with her tail, ready for another jump, the final one. However, it was not needed. This text reads like a masterclass in feline mechanics. It perfectly illustrates how a smaller cat can instantly neutralize an animal double her size. Kucherenko tracks her closing the distance from 30 meters down to 15, and finally down to a 5-meter boulder. Felines are sprint and pounce predators. They lack the lung capacity for prolonged chases, meaning the distance of the decisive jump must be minimized. The tigress waits for the exact moment the bear is physically compromised, when the bear buried its head in the dug hole. With the bear's vision blocked, neck covered by dirt, and spatial awareness neutralized, she strikes. Kucherenko notes that the bear attempted to take the enemy into his arms. As is customary, bears rely on wrestling and crushing force. The tigress bypasses this by utilizing a lethal, fluid wrestling maneuver. She slashes his soft underbelly, dives her head between his hind legs to disrupt his center of gravity, and utilizes her low, muscular leverage to flip the brown giant over herself. The physics of the attack match verified feline killing behaviors. When smaller big cats, like cougars or leopards, hunt prey significantly larger than themselves, like elk or eland, They rely heavily on using the prey's own momentum and high center of gravity to flip them, exposing throat and belly vulnerabilities. The description of the bear rolling and entangling himself with his own intestines and attempting a final, dying crawl toward the cat is a raw, non-sanitized biological reality of a severe abdominal wound. This account is a great example of leverage versus raw strength. If the tigress had stood still and tried to physically lift and hurl a 240 kilograms bear using purely her muscle mass, it would be physically impossible. However, tigers do not hunt like weightlifters. They hunt using leverage and kinetic energy transmission. Kucherenko notes 3 crucial biomechanical details. 1. The target was off balance. The bear was already startled, turning around, and in an unstable posture. The bear could only turn around and stand up. 2. The low center of gravity. The tigress dived her head between the hind legs of the enemy up to her shoulders. By positioning her entire body underneath the bear's center of gravity, she acted as a mechanical fulcrum. 3. The trip effect. When she executed a sharp jerk, she didn't actually throw the bear into the air. Instead, she tripped the bear over her own body while it was trying to lunge or stand. Because the bear was already moving its massive upper body backward to react to the attack, the tigress merely had to disrupt its rear legs. The bear's own massive weight and backward momentum are what actually threw it over. The tigress just provided the pivoting point. Furthermore, Kucherenko writes that the tigress slashed the victim from top to bottom on its open belly. Tigers have massive, hook-like claws that can extend several inches. When a cat rolls underneath a larger animal, it instinctively utilizes its hind legs or powerful front swipes to rake the soft underbelly. The bear did not die from being thrown. It died because it was eviscerated, entangled himself more and more with blue intestines. This is a horrifyingly accurate biological detail of how big cats neutralize massive, thick-skinned opponents when they cannot easily access the throat. If you take Kucherenko's words literally, imagining a tigress picking up a giant bear and tossing it like a judo master, it is biologically implausible. But if you look at it as a description of feline tactical leverage, it is highly plausible. The tigress used a surprise ambush, dived low to take out the bear's legs, and allowed the bear's own top-heavy weight and panicked momentum to flip him onto his back, exposing his stomach to a fatal laceration. Before moving to the next account, I'd like to show you 2 more sources from Kucherenko. The first one is the book Predatory Animals of the Forest, in which Kucherenko writes that the Amur tiger has no enemies. Only a very large brown bear can master it. In the Ushuri taiga, the battles of these 2 giants are not uncommon. In some cases, bears are the winners, but more often tigers. Both rarely leave the place of a bloody meeting alive, fighting to the death. The defeated is eaten. The second source from Kucherenko is the book titled Tiger, which provides 2 dramatic eyewitness encounters and incredibly valuable statistical breakdowns of tiger-bear conflicts. In the first encounter, a hunter and fisherman named V. Tvilenev observed the fight from a hill in the upper reaches of the Ushuri River. A female brown bear with a cub came across a half-eaten roe deer and began feeding. A tiger emerged from a thick hazel tree and rushed her without hesitation. The fight was described as a fierce, swift, roaring, huge ball of flashing yellow and brown. Eventually, the animals separated, the bear went down, and the severely weakened tiger slowly crawled away into the bushes. Hours later, Tvilenev inspected the scene, noting it looked like a plot of land uprooted for a vegetable garden with trees and shrubs torn apart. The mother bear lay dead with literally no living place on it, while her orphaned cub whined pitifully by her body. In the second encounter, an experienced fisherman, K. Podobny, witnessed the fight while searching for ginseng in the summer. Podobny notes the tiger spent more time on top but struggled to bite through the bear's thick neck. The bear fought back aggressively with all 4 paws, ripping out clumps of tiger hair. They fought almost a mutual death, but the tiger fundamentally neutralized the bear's ability to fight back by scratching out the bear's eyes. The blinded bear wandered aimlessly into the forest, bumping into trees, while the exhausted tiger was forced to crawl away because its legs could no longer support its weight. Finally, Kucherenko provides some valuable fight statistics. Out of 17 reliable cases of fights between Amur tigers and brown bears in the Saiko-Tallinn region, in 8 cases, the animals ultimately dispersed, a draw. In 6 cases, the tiger killed the bear, and in 3 cases, the bear won. So, the tiger win rate in open fights was 35.3% versus the bear win rate 17.6%. Beyond open fights, Kucherenko notes 9 additional cases where tigers explicitly targeted and attacked brown bears inside their winter dens. In those attacks, the tiger successfully crushed and ate 7 adult bears and 9 cubs. Kucherenko also cites the data of zoologist V. Kostoglad, who studied 28 cases of predator conflicts. In these specific interactions, the brown bear was typically the initial initiator/aggressor. In 11 cases, the tiger won. In 9 cases, the bear won, and in 8 cases, the fights ended in vain, draw/no resolution. Of the 9 tigers killed in the Kostoglad data pool, 5 were adults, presumably adult females, and the rest were vulnerable tiger cubs. To sum up, even in the statistics where brown bears initiated contact more often than not, the tigers still won most of the battles, clearly proving that even aggressive brown bears usually lose to tigers in face-to-face fights. Kucherenko summarizes all this information in the book, Tiger, with the following statement: "The tiger is at the top of the pyramid of food ties of the biocenoses inhabited by it. Amur tiger has few enemies. Of the animals, only a large brown bear can overpower it, and, even then young, not yet mature tigers or cubs become victims. Even a large bear will not take an adult male tiger. On the contrary, I had to meet big bears killed and eaten by a tiger. The average tiger is always stronger than the average bear." The 6th account is about a Siberian tigress killing a large male Shatun brown bear. This account is from the book of V.P. Sysoev, a biologist who studied bears and tigers and personally discovered several fights between these animals. Here the translation. Usually, large predators tend to avoid each other. Yet I am aware of cases of deadly encounters between them. They ended differently. In one case, a tigress killed a large Shatun bear and did not eat its meat. In another, it was a fight with a very large brown male. The confrontation ended in a draw, except for the fact that the tiger became lame afterwards. And in 2 cases, the bear emerged victorious. Not only did he kill the tiger in a hard fight, but he also ate it, leaving the defeated tiger's head, tail, and paws on the snow. So, let's start by focusing on the first case. A tigress killed a large Shatun bear and did not eat its meat. First thing to notice is the sheer disparity in weight and aggression in this specific victory. A typical adult female Amur tiger scales between 110 to 130 kilograms, 240 to 285 pounds. As we have broken down in previous cases, a Shatun is a winter-wandering bear crazed by hunger. Because large in brown bear literature denotes a mature adult male, and mature males are the most common Shatuns due to their massive caloric requirements, this tigress was facing a desperate, aggressive male likely weighing double her size. Sysoev notes a fascinating behavioral detail. After killing the large Shatun, the tigress did not eat its meat. When tigers hunt bears strictly as prey, they consume them. However, when a tiger kills a bear and leaves the carcass untouched, it strongly points to a conflict of defense or territorial competition. Shatun bears are notorious for invading tiger territory to steal their kills. The tigress didn't kill this giant for a meal. She killed him because he was an active, lethal threat to her survival or her kills. Now let's focus on the other cases. In particular, Sysoev documented 2 specific cases where a tiger was killed by a bear. Sysoev's text also includes the raw, brutal reality of what happens when the bear wins, noting a case where a massive male bear killed a tiger, left behind only the head, tail, and paws, but notably had its arm completely snapped by the tiger's bite. When we cross-reference these accounts with the tracking data and forensic reports, a fascinating pattern emerges. Neither of those 2 cases of bear victory involved a prime, adult male tiger being beaten in a fair, open fight. Instead, they involved a highly vulnerable subadult and a mother desperately defending her cubs. So, let's break down the two cases of bear defeating tiger reported by Sysoev. Account 1. The 1956 Kameny case, the 3-year-old cub. Report by Hunter Ivan Bogachev and State Hunting Inspection Chief Comrade Mikhailov, 1956, Shukipakto Reserve. A hungry Shatun bear suddenly appeared and fiercely attacked the young tiger. The bear won. After eating the boar, it turned its attention to the tiger. The text explicitly notes that the tiger killed here was part of a family unit traveling with its mother. While the report calls it a 3-year-old strong and large animal, in tiger biology, a 3-year-old is a subadult/large cub. They're still learning the brutal realities of territorial defense and lack the dense muscle mass, bone structure, and combat experience of a fully mature, 5-plus-year-old prime adult tiger. The tracking data showed the mother tigress had just killed a wild boar. She left the carcass for her young subadult to eat while she moved off to pursue the rest of the herd. While the young tiger was completely distracted feeding on the carcass, a massive, starving winter Shatun bear ambushed it over the food. Despite being an inexperienced subadult caught completely off guard, the young tiger fought like a demon. Forensic evidence showed clumps of the bear's fur deeply wedged inside the tiger's 5-centimeter fangs, proving it inflicted serious damage before being overpowered by the bear's massive weight advantage. Account 2. The December 1959 Podkornok case, the protective mother. Personal discovery by VP Sysoev, December 1959, Podkornok. I found the skull of an adult tigress that had been eaten by a bear. Squeezing the tigress in his iron embrace, the bear killed her. The second tiger Sysoev found dead was a female tigress. As we know, an average female Amur tiger weighs only 110 to 130 kilograms. The bear that killed her was described as an absolute giant. The circumference of its neck exceeded 1 meter, and its claws measured 12 centimeters, nearly 5 inches. This represents a massive male brown bear easily weighing 300 plus kg. The bear held a staggering 3-to-1 weight advantage. Why would a female tiger engage in a face-to-face brawl with a 300 kilograms monster? The snow tracks revealed the heartbreaking truth. The tigress had successfully hunted a wild boar to feed her 2-year-old cubs. The giant Shatun bear ambushed the cubs at the kill site, biting one so hard it yelped in agony. Hearing her offspring's cries, the mother tigress abandoned all feline caution. She didn't use a stealth ambush. She charged the giant thief head-on to save her cubs. The tracks show a catastrophic wrestling match where the bear used its immense mass to lock the tigress in an iron embrace, crushing her. Even in death, her sacrifice worked. Her tracks showed her orphaned cubs survived the encounter and walked away into the snow. When you look at the raw data from legendary experts like VP Sysoev, critics love to say, look, bears kill tigers too. But as we just proved through forensic track data, the context tells the real story. When a bear wins, it is almost always because a massive, 300-kilogram male bear ambushes a younger, inexperienced subadult tiger, or a mother tigress sacrifices her life in a desperate head-on brawl to save her cubs from a monster. But when the tiger wins, as we saw with Kucherenko and Abramov's accounts, a lone tiger, and sometimes even a lone female tigress, is capable of hunting down, physically outmaneuvering, and decisively killing a massive adult male brown bear in a straight fight. That is the raw, elite tactical difference of the Amur tiger. Now, if you want to know exactly what this life-or-death struggle looked like through the eyes of the man who tracked it, you don't have to imagine it. You can actually look at it. When Sysoev served as the director of the Khabarovsk Natural History Museum, he wanted to preserve the raw, dramatic reality of the taiga. He commissioned a famous museum diorama titled Tragedy in the Cedar Broadleaf Forest. Note how the tigress in the diorama is latching onto the bear's back, sinking its teeth directly into the bear's nape, the back of the neck. This perfectly mirrors the hunting text, which notes that the tigress relies on its superior speed, agility, and offensive initiative to leap onto the bear's back, trying to break or sever the neck vertebrae. The bear is standing upright, using its massive forelimbs to reach around and grapple the tigress. Let's move to the seventh account. In a 1956 volume of Soviet literature, a legendary local hunter and field correspondent named Ivan Bogachev shared an extraordinary tracking log from the Shatun River Valley, a notorious hotspot where tiger and brown bear territories overlap. Bogachev wasn't examining a cold, random carcass. He was literally walking the identical path these animals walked hours prior, matching the tiger's paw prints directly alongside the deep depressions left by a huge brown bear. Now, the text doesn't explicitly use the word male, but to a wildlife biologist or an experienced taiga tracker, the word huge is a definitive proxy for a massive, adult male. In the Russian Far East, hunters reserve this specific word for the true juggernauts of the forest, adult male brown bears that can easily weigh anywhere from 250 to over 400 kilograms. This tiger wasn't just tracking opportunistic prey, it was deliberately hunting a titan. As Bogachev followed the dual sets of tracks, he noticed a dramatic shift in the tiger's behavior. The text states, at one point he turned aside and describing a semicircle obviously headed to intercept the bear. This is pure feline tactical genius. Tigers are master ambush predators. They know that trailing directly behind an animal is highly risky because brown bears have an exceptional sense of smell and can easily detect a shadow. By breaking away from the bear's direct path, the tiger performed a wide flanking maneuver under the wind, stealthily looping ahead to lay a perfect, unalerted ambush. Did the ambush work? Bogachev tracked the loop right to the impact zone. He records, I came to the spot where the tiger had attacked. There was blood on the snow and tufts of the bear's coat all over the place. The physical evidence left in the snow tells the final story. Felines prefer a clean, instant kill from behind, but when dealing with a massive adult male bear, it frequently turns into a chaotic, face-to-face brawl. The torn-up snow and flying tufts of coarse brown bear hair prove the tiger successfully executed its ambush, hitting the giant bear with devastating, bloody force. This account proves that Amur tigers do not view large brown bears merely as dangerous competitors to avoid. They view them as a viable, calculated food source. A tiger actively outmaneuvering and outflanking a 300-plus kg male carnivore reinforces its status as the undisputed master of the taiga. Critics who try to claim that bears dominate this rivalry love to bring up the tragic story of the young tiger cub we analyzed earlier, the one found crushed in the snow. But what they always leave out is the expert conclusion of the very man who found it. In his authoritative work, The Lord of the Jungle, famous zoologist A. Slutsky records the definitive, first-hand verdict of Ivan Bogachev. Reflecting on his lifetime of tracking these two titans across the taiga, Bogachev stated plainly, yes, tigers and bears live together unhappily. But more often the tiger overpowers the bear. Think about how profound that is. The exact same veteran tracker who documented a bear killing a tiger cub openly admits that when it comes to the macro data and the overall balance of power in the forest, it is the tiger that holds the definitive upper hand. The Shatun River ambush wasn't a lucky fluke, it represents the typical outcome when these two apex predators clash. Up to this point, we've looked at incredible field tracking diaries and historical books. But how does this data hold up under the strict scrutiny of modern academic science? To find out, we have to look at a landmark 1965 paper published in the prestigious Soviet scientific journal, Zoologicheski Zernal. Written by renowned zoologist N.V. Rakov, this paper investigated the expanding distribution of the Amur tiger. Because it was published in a leading academic journal, every single record had to pass rigorous peer review by an editorial board of top zoologists. And right there in the text, Rakov drops the monumental piece of data. Here the translation. In December 1959, on the Svetlaya River, a tiger killed a large brown bear and lived near him for about 10 days, until it was eaten and then left to the south along the coast sea. Rakov included a crucial, quantifiable detail that proves the sheer size of this bear. The text states that after making the kill, the tiger lived near him for about 10 days, until it was eaten. Let's look at the biology of that timeline. A single adult Amur tiger typically consumes about 7 to 10 kilograms of meat per day. When a tiger kills a standard wild boar or a red deer, the carcass is entirely stripped and consumed within 2 to 5 days. For a tiger to remain anchored to a single kill site for 10 full days in the freezing month of December means the prey item possessed an immense amount of meat and dense fat reserves. It perfectly matches the heavy, massive biomass of a mature male bear. Skeptics love to claim the tiger might have just found a dead bear frozen in the snow. But Rakov explicitly credits his primary field source at the end of the sentence, A. Karavanov, a trusted local tracker and field correspondent. In wildlife forensics, scientists don't use the word killed lightly. Karavanov would have explicitly looked for the signature of a feline ambush, stalking tracks print in print, sudden bounding leaps, and deep hemorrhaging at the bear's neck vertebrae. Furthermore, by December, healthy brown bears are safely sleeping in their dens. Finding a giant bear active above ground usually points to a high-stakes, direct wilderness confrontation, one where the tiger reigns supreme.
For our ninth case, we are diving into a remarkable modern study published by Dr. Vitaly Zaitsev from the Severtsov Institute of Ecology and Evolution. The data comes directly from a winter 1982 tracking log recorded by head forester L.V. Kirst and field researcher A.D. Saiko. In the Soviet conservation system, a head forester wasn't a casual hunter spinning tall tales. They were highly trained field specialists legally mandated to document wildlife forensics. And in the deep snow, they deciphered a multi-stage, high-speed drama that lasted for over half a kilometer. The foresters found the tracks of an adult male Amur tiger actively stalking a mature male brown bear. The snow showed the exact spot where the tiger exploded from cover and launched its first ambush. But a male brown bear is a fortress of dense muscle, thick hide, and heavy winter fat. The tracking data revealed a shocking twist. The initial attack failed. The tiger could not instantly secure its lethal neck clamp or break the spine. The massive bear broke free and bolted down the valley of a key stream, running for its absolute life. This is where most people assume a big cat gives up. But what this tiger did next proves the terrifying intelligence of these apex predators. Instead of engaging in an exhausting straight-line footrace directly behind a panicked bear, the tiger completely calculated the terrain. The forester's log notes that the tiger broke off the direct chase, scaled a narrow ridge at the edge of the watershed, and sprinted hundreds of meters away around the bear's path. As the unsuspecting bear ran right into the trap, the tiger struck a second time. The forensic log concludes with an ironclad result. The tiger successfully managed to take the male bear as a result of this second attack. Because the foresters tracked this live-action pursuit step by step for over 500 meters, witnessing the collisions, the separation, the flanking loop, and the final kill site, opportunistic scavenging is mathematically and forensically ruled out. This is definitive proof of active, hyper-persistent predation against a mature male brown bear. Now, a colleague recently reached out directly to the study's author, Dr. Vitaly Zaitsev, and this was his personal response. First, Zaitsev addresses the bear's health. He explicitly notes that this was not a bear weakened or wasted away by hunger. According to the primary tracker on the ground, A.D. Saiko, the bear was not skinny. It was a healthy, well-fed animal caught at the very beginning of winter in the Kolumbeyskoye forestry. But what about its size? Skeptics love to say, the foresters didn't carry a scale into the woods, so they guessed. Zaitsev beautifully counters this. He points out that Saiko wasn't just a security inspector. He was an exceptionally experienced local hunter. It is highly unlikely a veteran of the taiga would make a significant mistake determining a bear's size by eye. According to Saiko's rigorous field estimate, the weight of this male brown bear reached 270 to 300 kilograms. No less. Let that sink in. Dr. Zaitsev concludes that while 300 kilograms is less than the absolute maximum size an Ushuri brown bear can reach, it is by no means small. This was a massive 600-plus pound prime male tank. And an Amur tiger deliberately tracked him for over half a kilometer, outsmarted his escape route, and killed him in a direct tactical ambush. If anyone ever tells you tigers only hunt small or weakened bears, show them this account. Now, the 10th account is one of the most intensely debated clashes in the entire history of the Russian Far East. I actually did a complete breakdown of this account in a previous video. Give it a try. I'm talking about the account of the medium-sized male tiger Ochkarik, who killed and completely devoured a huge male brown bear named Chlamydia, who was repeatedly following and stealing the kills of the tigress Rochelle, Ochkarik's mate and mother of his cubs. This account was reported by one of the greatest bear and tiger experts alive, namely Alexander Batalov.
Просто преследовал с целью отобрать поживу. Но и в итоге где-то и пропали 2 тигренка. Но пришедший самец, вот этот знаменитый наш Очкарик, который, он все-таки, избавил от этой беды. Скорее всего, он его ликвидировал, этого медведя. То есть вот такие взаимоотношения, которые происходят.
Our final case brings us to late November 2022, in the southern district of the Bolsheketsersky Nature Reserve near Khabarovsk. This battle was so significant it made regional television news and was officially announced on Telegram by the governor of the Khabarovsk territory himself.
Тигр растерзал медведя под Хабаровском. Место схватки хищников инспекторы обнаружили на юге Большехицирского заповедника.
Вот знак охранной зоны. Смотри, они тут начали драться. Вот, вытоптано. Вытоптали поляну, дрались. Тигра, вот медведя, буряка задавила, офигенного.
Вот тигриный след.
Вот он, Петрович, вот, смотри,
вот тигриный. Вот туша медведя.
Натоптали, блядь. Хороший след.
Медведь. Вот Лёшка.
11, по-моему, сантиметров.
Вот следы.
10. 10. Ох, котяра наш здоровый. Лёшка вообще, да? Жак. Вон, где у нас знак? Знак вот он, здесь вот. Под знаком охранной зоны вместо. Тигр. А? Лежал, он его нашел. Смотри, поляну искатали, какую дрались.
Reserve inspectors discovered a violent, heavily trampled battleground in the snow where a resident male tiger named Odyr clashed with an active brown bear. To get an expert opinion, a colleague reached out to renowned Russian bear expert Mikhail Krechmar. When asked about this specific case and the reported 18-centimeter paw print, Krechmar confirmed that this was indeed a healthy, very large bear. The official Amur Tiger Center also weighed in on their public platform to confirm this account. But we didn't just want public posts, we wanted direct verification from the reserve itself. An independent researcher contacted Mikhail Mileshyk, the head of the security department for the reserve, to ask flat out if the 18 centimeters paw width was real. Mileshyk responded directly, officially validating the measurement. Finally, we have the ultimate piece of first-hand evidence. A colleague named Bruce managed to get an exclusive email response from Yuri Kia, the chief engineer who was actually on the ground and measured the bear's pad. Kia explicitly confirmed, yes, indeed, there was such a case when our tiger caught a male brown bear. I confirm the width of the front heel. Kia's eyewitness account of the site paints a brutal picture. Because of a heavy snowfall, they couldn't track the entire hunt from the beginning, but the kill site was covered in a massive circle of smashed bushes and trampled, withered grass where the giants collided. Interestingly, early news reports claimed the tiger walked away completely untouched. But Yuri Kia clarified the ground truth. After tracking Odyr's departure trail, he discovered the tiger actually sustained a minor injury to its paw during the violent struggle. The tiger was temporarily scared off its prize by the loud approach of tracked all-terrain vehicles, but it confidently returned to the carcass multiple times over the following days to finish its meal. 11 cases. 11 historic and modern-day accounts documented by primary researchers, state nature reserves, and wildlife biologists. When we look at the data objectively, a clear pattern emerges. While the Ashuri brown bear is a colossal powerhouse capable of dominating almost any animal on the planet, the Amur tiger proves time and time again why it is the absolute master of the taiga. It doesn't just rely on raw muscle. It uses unmatched stealth, calculated ambush, and terrifying tactical efficiency to bring down some of the largest competitors in the animal kingdom. From pulling bears directly out of winter dens to matching mature prime males in fierce face-to-face duels, these apex predators redefine what it means to be a hypercarnivore. Which of these 11 accounts shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read and reply to as many as I can.
There's a story that you said to me when I was in Russia the first time about tiger and a grizzly bear that I'd love you to be able to share. A tiger hunting grizzly bear.
Tiger hunting a grizzly.
Well, that tiger killing a sow grizzly bear. Yeah, see, he forgot. This guy,
That one.
all other tiger experts, he's forgot more than all other tiger experts know. So please share that story with the audience.
What can I say? A tiger killed a grizzly bear. I hate to go down this road because I get emails every week of somebody writing me and saying, who would win in a fight between a grizzly bear and a tiger? There's a whole group of people who that's all they argue about. And so I don't want to open up that. I don't want to get emails from you guys about this. But there's a long history of interactions between tigers and bears. And depending on the situation, one comes out better than the other. Oftentimes they both end up the worst of the fight. But there are occasions when tigers will go hunt and kill bears. More rarely grizzly bears, but there's an Asiatic black bear, like our American black bear, that are more common prey items for them. So we find kills of bears by tigers, not uncommonly. And you can imagine their stormy scenes at the site. So I think I'll leave it at that.
How are they like a big Russian bear or a grizzly bear?
The tiger has this kind of inborn sense of total dominance over its domain. So Russian brown bears are the equivalent of our grizzly. Mm-hmm. Tigers attack, kill them, and eat them on a regular basis. I've seen video of a tiger charging a helicopter.
Whoops.
So I mean, they have this sort of inborn sense that there's nothing out there bigger
Sure.
and badder than me.
Well, in
and
nature,
they act on that.
And everything is finite, especially carnivores. We
Yeah.
know that. So it's great to be king of the jungle. I thought that was the lion, but perhaps in
In Asia,
Far East
yeah.
Russia,
Yeah.
it's the tiger.